Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Overview and Scrutiny panel for Environment, Communities and Partnerships for our April session. We're moving on with the agenda. Apologies, we've got a number of apologies. I'll let Becky read them through.
So we have apologies this evening from Councillors Burke, Criswell, Cadwary, McAdam and Welton.
Thank you, Becky. So moving on to the minutes. We'll just check the minutes. Is everyone happy with the minutes from last month? Thank you. I've got okay. So moving on to item 2, members' interest. Has anyone got any interest they'd like to declare? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. I'd like to declare an interest in item 6, please. I'm an environment officer for the EA and regulate the Thalia sites mentioned in the report. So I would suggest it's probably best I'm excluded from the discussion.
Thank you. So item number 3, overview and scrutiny working programme. Everyone's had a read of the latest programme. Anyone got any questions for it? Councillor Alban.
Thank you, Chair. You and I have had conversations before about getting to the climate change working group, the national grid, to look at some of the projects that might or might not be possible. I'm really keen that we can make progress on that. I think there's lots of opportunities where we can come up with suggestions as a task and finish group.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Alban. Any other comments or questions? Oh, Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. I was going to suggest something along a similar vein. Obviously, we seem to have stalled a little bit in the climate working group, and I was hoping perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss perhaps some more options. I know there's the HVO project on the agenda, but I'm not sure timescale on that. I was hoping we'd perhaps arrange a meeting to discuss some other options.
Yeah. Thank you. No other questions, is there? Okay, moving on to item 4. Supporting residents' domestic abuse policy. We have Councillor Taylor and John who will come and give us a brief overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually doing this on behalf of Councillor Ferguson. He was unable to be here today. So this piece that I'm reading out is actually from Councillor Ferguson. Domestic abuse is a serious problem facing society. About 1.4 million women and 75,000 men aged 16 plus were victims of domestic violence last year. However, only 24% of these crimes were reported to the police. Operating on the front line, HDC staff are frequently the first point of contact for victims of domestic abuse. Some who might not understand that the behaviour they are experiencing meets the legal definition of abuse, which incorporates behaviours of violence as well as other forms of abuse, including economic abuse and coherence control. Although no single agency has a complete picture of the life of a family or individual living with domestic abuse, HDC is often one of the agencies with the most insight and therefore has a crucial role to play in the support and safety of victims. HDC has both a moral and legal imperative to assist victims of domestic abuse. We are committed to ensuring that all residents affected by domestic abuse are supported in a sympathetic and sensitive manner, and that staff act in a non-judgmental way. This policy sets out the level of service we aim to provide to victims of domestic abuse. At all times, it is the Council's intention to increase the housing security and safety of those experiencing domestic abuse, and for the perpetrators to be held accountable for their behaviours. The policy is intended to collate, formalise and adopt the best practices from across all agencies, and it will be reviewed at least every 3 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. As everyone's had a read, personally, I think it's a very thorough paper, and I'm really glad. It's lovely to see that the work's already been done. It's just been put into policy now, and it's brilliant. It's obvious, really, when we're dealing with housing, that we have to work with people who have to face domestic abuse. Has anyone got any questions or comments to make? Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. Just one comment, really. I was looking through the paper and I didn't see anything about working with charities. Do we signpost people to charities in the area at all when they contact us?
Yes, we do. Yeah, there's a range of different services available. Some of them are specialist services, but there are also other charities that we can get involved as well. So it's about bringing a number of different agencies that can help people together. And that's part of, as most of the customers that we will see coming through that may be experiencing domestic abuse come through to housing needs because they're obviously fleeing a domestic abusive relationship. We then obviously try and do the joining up with specialist services. The panel may not know as well that we have an IDVA. So an IDVA is an independent domestic violence advocate. They're employed through the county council, but they're co-located with us, so they're in the team. So we work hand in hand with specialist other services as well.
Brilliant. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Bywater.
Yeah, thanks. Just to echo your comments, Chair, it's a really good report, John, and I just want to thank you publicly. You've helped me on a lot of occasions, so thank you very much. The question I've really got is about the partners, and it says other housing partners. Can you give us some reassurance that because ultimately we rely on the housing partners to act swift to rehouse people, and what's the relationship with our housing partners?
So the accreditation, the national accreditation that's mentioned in the paper, which is called DAHA. DAHA is Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance. It's aimed at embedding council and housing providers' responses to domestic abuse. With housing providers, that obviously means with their tenants, because they are the registered social landlords. Many of the registered social landlords in the area and nationally are also working towards the same accreditation. So it's working towards that recognised good practice nationally. So many of the associations that we work with will be working towards the same standard as well.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you again. I just want to echo what my colleagues have said, and that it's a brilliant report, and glad to know originally when speaking to you. When I first saw this, I was like, are we not doing any of this already? And then actually speaking to you and working out, we're just essentially writing down what we've been doing for years, and it's really reassuring. You've mentioned that we're working towards DAHA kind of accreditation, which the paper says will come sometime in 2024, hopefully. What are kind of the next steps to achieve that accreditation, and what else needs to be done?
So a member of the team has worked with DAHA and gone through their accreditation process. So they in effect prepare you to go through that process. So one of the housing needs teams, one of the team leaders has gone through that process. We are working closely with them. We know who our accreditor, how our assessor will be. We're learning from them. They're sharing lots of resources with us in terms of particularly things like policy statements like this, which yes, we do this in practice, but we don't have a policy statement on it. So we're taking their lead on sort of working hand in hand, I suppose, working towards the accreditation. The assessment is lined up for possibly June at the moment. It will involve the rollout of a training program as well. So for staff, domestic abuse awareness will be mandatory training for all new members of staff starting. And there are certain posts within the council that are more likely to come into contact with customers who may be experiencing domestic abuse. And so those staff posts are going on a more enhanced domestic abuse awareness course. Members may be pleased to hear that actually members will be part of the training programme for domestic abuse awareness, and that's something that we'll be looking to roll out later this year as well. So there's a programme of steps that we're going through at the moment, really in preparation for this. And this is one of them. Adopting a policy, showing our commitment as an organisation, is one of those sort of steps towards the assessment process.
Thank you.
That's good to hear. You'll be training us too. Any other questions or comments? In that case, thank you so much, John, and thank you, Councillor Taylor, for presenting. Agenda item 5, exclusion of the press and public. They're to be excluded from the meeting because the business contains exempt information relating to the financial and business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. So
I think we'll just pause the stream. Thank you.
So we'll move into item 8, readmittance of the press and the public. The press and public be readmitted to the meeting, which I think they just have been. Thank you.
And we're back online.
We're back live. So item 9, Climate Emergency UK, Council Climate Scorecard Gap Analysis Update. We've got Councillor Davenport-Smith and Neil to give us a short presentation.
Presentation. Presentation is just coming. There we are. Neil is going to run you through the presentation, but I'll just say a few words before he starts. The first is the reason why we're bringing the presentation to you. A few months ago, we were presenting on a different topic and mentioned that we'd received our scores, and the committee asked for more detail, not just on our score, but how it was calculated and how we compared to our peers. So that's what we came back with. I should also mention a potential conflict of interest. I've recently been asked if I will join the advisory board of the organization that runs the scorecards. So I'll just put that out there. There's no decisions to make on it tonight, so I will stay in the room. If we go back and talk a little bit about the timing of the scorecards, that might be helpful for you. So the first set of scorecards were produced in 2021 by this organization, Climate Emergency UK. At that point, our council scored 0%. And then the next time they made their assessment was March 2023, and that's when we scored 27%. Now, what's interesting for our council is that many of the climate initiatives we've been working on came into effect just after March 2023. So I'm really happy about the 27% score, but I think a lot of the things that they would have been assessing would be different if they were doing it today. And we think perhaps they might do their next assessment in probably early 2025, so that result will be interesting as well. Neil's going to talk a little bit about priorities, and you will notice that there are differences between the priorities that are measured in the scorecards and our own council's priorities. And I would just conclude that although the priorities are different, neither of them are necessarily wrong. It's very subjective, and that we shouldn't necessarily use the targets that this organization has drawn upon and try to chase them, just trying to chase a good score. I think it's important that we set our own priorities and we target them rather than what this organization thinks is most important. I think it's also impossible to find one set of criteria to judge all of the urban councils and all of the rural districts, all of the unitary authorities, all of the district councils. My conclusion on this is that it's an imperfect way of judging all councils on their climate action, but it's all we have at the moment. And it gives us targets to aspire to. And, in the end, I think we should be very proud of the work that our council officers have undertaken over the last few years and of the progress that we've made so far. And I'm pretty hopeful about the progress we'll make in the years to come as well. So I'll let Neil run you through the presentation.
Thank you and good evening, panel. And thank you for the opportunity to explain about Climate Emergency UK and how we want to use that to help Huntingdonshire and also the services in terms of improve our position in terms of climate and reducing our carbon emissions. So to start off with a little bit about Climate Emergency UK. It's a not-for-profit community interest company. And essentially what they do is they are crowdsourcing information from councils, and they are stacking that information against each other, and they are considering it against a set of priorities. And they have a number of stated aims, which are written there on the slides, which were distributed in advance of the meeting. So I don't intend to go through each one in turn, but it does give you an idea that they are a campaigning organisation, and they do have some priorities of their own in terms of what they believe will make the biggest difference for climate change. Now, this score exists whether we engage with it or not, because the community interest company are undertaking this work and presenting this information for everybody to see. And so therefore, all councils in the UK will have a score, whether they've engaged with this process or not. And so I think it's important to say that actually by engaging with this process, we get the best out of it. but we also go into it with our eyes open that actually some of those priorities might differ to the ones that our residents have said are our priorities through our climate strategy, and also the ones that the evidence that we've used to base our climate decisions on for Huntingdonshire, because obviously they're looking at a national picture. So one of the really, really good things about this for us as a council is that with our performance management framework, we're really interested in benchmarking. We're really interested in knowing whether we are good at something or whether there are things to learn from other people and how they've done things. So actually, any form of independent review with a set criteria is helpful for us because it will identify where we might be stronger or weaker, and it also identifies where we're stronger or weaker with our near neighbours. And you can see from the slide up there now, we've got the district councils that are close to us. And what I think is really interesting is if you look that we had a climate plan which was 1 year, and if I may say, our climate strategy was adopted a month before these figures were released with our action plan. We scored 27%, which means we're doing pretty well as a council, and that was just 2% below the district council average for Climate Emergency UK. If we then compare ourselves to the City Council and the fact that they declared a climate emergency 8 years ago, they've had 8 years of refinement and actions, which therefore are reflective in the fact that they've scored higher. And then naturally, if you look at some of the other councils, you can see that kind of flow there. So we've started really well from a good base, and we've got some targeted actions which all the councillors have been involved in, and obviously there is the working party as well that's involved in particular initiatives. The other thing that we're doing with these figures, because we can do this, is we're looking at our SIP for near neighbours as well. And what that does is that expands the pool of excellent practice so that we're then able to look at each category, which is across the top there, which are the categories that are scored, against our SIP for near neighbours, and look for practice which might be standout practice, where the score's higher. We can then look at what that council's done, make contact with that council, and that helps us to inform our approach to see if it's relevant for Huntingdonshire as well. So we're using this as a tool to help us be even more targeted on the things that matter to our residents. So the SIP for near neighbours is the authorities that are of a similar characteristic as set out by the Chartered Institute of Finance for local authorities. And so they're councils of a similar constitution, a similar number of population, and a similar kind of budget size as a result. So I've explained it's a really good tool for us to use, and we could just look at the website and go, hey, we got a score, or actually we could engage with it and use it as a tool. And so this is the work that we're doing to make sure that we're reviewing the scorecards. As Councillor Davenport-Ray has already intimated, their work is done every 2 years because it is a non-for-profit organisation, and that's the pace at which they're working. Our short-term actions in our climate strategy are years 1 to 2. So we're very much focused on those actions, and just so how that fits together. So now I just want to talk about the priorities a bit. And so on the left, you can see the priority level that the organisation of Climate Emergency UK place on the different aspects of climate. And you can see the big ones there in terms of buildings and heating, and then going round to collaboration and engagement at 10%, and then it goes lower still. Then the HDC priorities are on the right, and there are some noticeable differences. The biggest noticeable difference is the orange one, which is fleet and transport. And the reason for that is that the vast majority of the council's emissions are derived by our operational services in the activities that we do in terms of collecting waste, undertaking street cleansing activity, and maintaining all the grounds and public open spaces that we have. So therefore, in terms of an HDC priority to reduce our carbon footprint, it is right and proper that it's more heavily weighted for us, because that means that we reduce our carbon footprint quicker as a council. So that gives you an illustration of why it is good that it differs. But also what that does mean is that we're putting more effort into that and less effort into some of the things which might derive a slightly higher Climate Emergency UK score. But I think we have to tolerate that, because the whole point of our climate strategy is that it's about Huntingdonshire, not about the issues that might affect the whole of the UK. So we've looked at the gap analysis, and we're working with service managers in those areas to look at best practice. To be fair, those managers do that already. You've already heard from Andy this evening. He's doing HVO trial work at the moment to reduce our carbon footprint on fleet, and that has included being an exemplar where the fire brigade and the police are looking at the work that we're doing as well. So we're doing the influence and enable piece as well as doing the work ourselves. So that shows how we work with services across the council where there are those opportunities. And we will revise our climate actions every year. And this committee will receive the update report in June on how we've done against our first year of operating our climate strategy and our climate action plan. So we're working at the moment on both those carbon emissions figures and also the actions so that we can present that back to you. Obviously, Climate Scorecards UK is the website. There's lots of information on there should you want to look at who does other bits and pieces. But the last couple of slides are the very detailed information, which I'm not going to go through, but I think I just want to explain the complexity of some of the work that our climate coordinator has done to be able to present this information to you tonight. So we are given a percentage figure for each category, and that's based on a score. So that seems quite simple, straightforward. But underlying that, there are different weightings for different councils, and there are a maximum number of points in each category. The maximum number of points in each category differ. They don't add up to the same thing, and their weighting is applied to those. So therefore, it has taken a little bit of time to bring this back to you, because our climate coordinator has had to unpick some of that stuff to be able to work out the differences between the priorities and also then make sure that we're benchmarking appropriately. So I just wanted to give you a flavour of the complexity of the scoring behind it and then how we've interpreted that, because it's important that we do so for all the benefits that we've described. And that's the end of the presentation, and over to any questions.
Anyone got any questions or comments? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. I think the scorecard demonstrates the great work that's been put into climate work at this council. So can I just clarify something? So the score that we got in this report, is that a score on the council or the district? I.e., would things like the fact we've got A1, A14 bring our transport figure down, or is it purely based on council assets and the work we do?
It's based on the council's work for the council's area. So, for example, the county council will be scored for its work based on the criteria that they set for county councils for the area that the county council covers. So, yes is the answer, but also it's not quite as straightforward as that. So think of it as everything that happens within our environment of the district, and then our impact that we can have on that. So through our policies, etc., and they go on what's published. So they will go on the public documents that are available on our website. And as far as they're concerned, if it's not in the public domain, i.e. it's in an officer's cupboard somewhere, it doesn't exist. So it's really important that we're very transparent, as we are, about everything we do about climate.
Councillor Davenport-Ray.
I think one thing that's really interesting about these scorecards is they're not trying to assess what are the emissions of Huntingdonshire. They're trying to assess what has Huntingdonshire District Council shown as its intention to try to tackle emissions? So it's sort of subjective in a way. Is they want to see a good intention, they want to see a policy document that says you're addressing what the issue is, rather than, like you mentioned, the whole geographic area's climate impact.
Anyone else got any comments or questions? Councillor Orban?
I think one of the most reassuring things I've heard tonight was from Councillor Davenport-Ray, that we can take this organisation's comments and we can look at it and we can assess ourselves against it, but we are the masters and mistresses of our own destiny. We know our district, we know the problems, we know the facilities and capacity of our communities to take, which might not be applicable to other counties, and I'm reassured that it's one of my things I keep banging on about is that there's more than one way to tackle climate change, and no one person or no one party has the monopoly on the ideas. And I think it's great this is seen for what it is, as one way of assessing ourselves, and that all of us from different political persuasions have got an approach to this and a part to play.
Yeah, I particularly like the fact that we can tap into other councils of similar sizes and look at what they're doing where we're weak. Maybe one day they'll come to us, eh?
There were just two more things I would add. I would agree with Neil, actually. They are starting to ask us about some things. The first is just to add some perspective to the percentages you've seen as well. So in 2021, it was a 0%. 2023, it's in the 20s. I do not expect that kind of progress to continue. I mean, if we look at all the councils across the UK, the highest scoring council is maybe in the 50s or 60%. This is going to be, every year, it's going to get harder and harder to do more and more. And I think we need to be prepared for that. We've started on a really good trajectory, but it's not linear. It's, I would say, logarithmic. And then the final thing I wanted to say is the officer that's been working behind this, Katie Smith, our climate coordinator, has been really excellent in monitoring our climate action plan, encouraging service managers to continue to work toward this, preparing this gap analysis, and she is moving on to new projects soon. And so I wanted to put on record my thanks to her and all the work that she's done for the council.
Absolutely, yeah. Has anyone got any other comments or questions on this paper? In that case, thank you very much, Councillor Davenport-Ray and Neil, for your presentation. So moving on to item 10, One Leisure Annual Performance Review 2023 to 24. Councillor Taylor again with another hat, and Greg.
Lee and Joe as well.
Thank you. Who wanted to start off?
Thanks, you, Chair. So it's been 2 years of reviews, proposals and implementations in One Leisure. This has seen swim school students' health and fitness, admission increase along with much more, as you will see in the slides. I really want to comment on the organised sessions, which have increased by 53%. You'll see this all in the slides. This was in 2023 from 22 to 23. Plus exercise referral clients up by 12%. Referrals increase in post-COVID for the first time, delivered by active lifestyle. Not only is exercise good for the already active, it is life-changing for the residents who have been referred because of ill health, giving physical and mental benefits. One area that some of you Scrutiny members that you will remember were concerned about when we had the increase of prices in 2023, and rightly so, you should have been concerned. So in that session, excuse me, in that session I spoke of concessions because of your concern of the price increase, and I highlighted that we have got concessions. And I am pleased to say concessions pay and play have increased by 78%. This gives individuals discounted access to One Leisure. Thank you, Chair, and I'll give it over to the team.
Good evening, panel. Good evening, Chair. Just to introduce, I've got Lee Alliker, the Business and Operations Manager for One Leisure, and Joe Peden, the Active Lifestyles Manager, just supporting me in the presentation this evening. So if I do refer to Joe or Lee, I'll bring them in when required, or if you give me a posing question. So I'd just like to run through the agenda for the presentation this evening. We've started with a year in numbers, just identifying some of the high-level numbers that we use as key performance metrics throughout the year. We've then done a comparison between 22-23 and 23-24. We wanted to celebrate our successes throughout that year, and then also just to link back to the annual review that we did in February 2022 last year, just some of the key themes that we said that we would go away and complete, and just as a by way of an update on how we've got on with them. And then just understanding the challenging operating environment that we've worked in over the last 12 to 18 months, and just setting some forward plan items, some key objectives that we will look to complete within 24-25, which are embedded within our service plan. So the year in numbers, it's great to be able to sit here now and say that our swim school at over 3,300 is the highest it's ever been when you exclude Sawtry swimming pool, which is fantastic news. We're getting more children more physically active with a key life skill. We have got plans to increase that further over the next 12 months. But again, linking back to the presentation we did recently on the built facility strategy, we are looking at ways that we can actually increase capacity through new swimming pools. But that again is some time off, but we're looking at how we can program and utilise existing facilities. We've got over 7,700 health and fitness members now. We reported several weeks ago that we're on a trajectory towards trying to get back to that magic 8,400 number that we had in February 2020 pre-pandemic. It's great to say that today on live numbers after March's sales, we did over 600 sales. We're now standing at 8,000 members. So we've grown again. These numbers were taken at the end of January. We've now grown to 8,000 members. So we're not far away from pre-pandemic levels. Admissions I'll come on to. We're on course to hit our corporate KPI of 1.4 million, the figures that you see every quarter. That's actually 100,000 attendances up year on year. So we've got 100,000 more people coming through the doors and being physically active. Again, just going through on the bottom there, I'm looking at swim school income and membership income. That just shows you that it's nearly 50% of the total revenue that we take in year on year. That income is growing, obviously moving into 24-25 that we explained at the last overview and scrutiny committee meeting to 6.9 million. And again, we set out how we were going to complete that journey several weeks ago. In terms of active lifestyles, again, I'll come back to Joe on here if there's anything that I don't cover correctly. But this is here a key success that it's the highest individual attendances we've ever recorded in active lifestyles. It's actually generated over 31,000 attendances, and that's been delivered through over 3,100 organised sessions. We've also delivered our highest revenue to date just on active lifestyles, which is a mixture of direct income, commissioned programs, and also funded programs as well. So Joe and her team have done some fantastic work there. And just playing on the work that, or the information that Councillor Taylors has just shared, the concessionary pay and play scheme has increased significantly. And a key success for that was the work that Joe and her team did, where we promoted the concessionary pay and play scheme through the annual council tax billing process last year, where we had a massive upturn in concessionary pay and play subscriptions, which has come back off the promotion that we've done there, and obviously our continuation of our Active Lifestyles Platinum membership as well, which is performing really, really strongly. So this is just an overview of the key performance metrics that we use within One Leisure, and it comes back to some of the finer detail that we were asked about several weeks ago about how we track and monitor our progress. You can see there that we've grown by 4% in swim school year on year. Health and fitness is 3%. Total income has increased by 11%. A lot of that was supported by the price increase that we delivered, but also the compound effect on the increase in members from swim school and health and fitness. Obviously, total expenditure has increased significantly by 10%. That's mainly due to the increase year on year in utilities, payroll costs because of the national minimum wage, and then business rates, which were rebaselined and included. The membership income again has grown, and that's set to continue to grow. And we've had a strong start and a strong start in April for the new financial year, where we believe we're ahead of budget, which is fantastic news. And Burgess Hall income, unfortunately, Councillor Burke's not here this evening, but that revenue is actually £80,000 higher than it was in 22-23, and it's set to continue to increase with the appointment of our new events and hospitality manager. In terms of active lifestyles, again, you can see that Joe and her team have done fantastic work within the organised sessions, where they're over 50% higher than they were. Attendances are the highest they've been, and that includes pre-pandemic. Our memberships have grown significantly through our platinum and our concessionary prepaid options. The concessionary pay and play has increased significantly by 78%. And the work that we really need to go away and continue, albeit it's plateaued in terms of volunteer-led sessions, which is around the individual walking, through the volunteer-led sessions, but also the exercise referral clients, where we've now got the human resource to deliver more sessions. We now need to go away and program those and implement those, which we'll be doing. And obviously there's been a positive impact through total income. So some of the key successes, front and centre, is the additional or the improved 100,000 attendances year on year. For me, part of my job and why I get up every day is to try and look at ways that we can improve physical activity. And the most powerful message on that screen is around the additional or the improvement in attendances year on year. And we're comfortable to hit our target by the end of this year. We've successfully reopened Pure Spas at One Leisure, St Neots and St Ives. They were closed up until we reopened them, obviously, but they were closed since COVID, and that's off the back of the introduction of the new membership architecture. We've worked closely and just recently successfully been awarded £750,000 of Sport England money for St Ives Indoor Leisure Centre for new triple glazing across the pool hall, for solar PV. As you know, we're about to implement new membership architecture to restructure and take forward our membership offer to compete with the local competitors that we have. And we've worked obviously with partners through SIL and the Football Foundation about relaying the football pitches at St Ives outdoor as well. In terms of the successes for active lifestyles, we've worked with our internal colleagues on the increasing new or implementing new cardiovascular disease and frailty prevention programs, as you can see in front of you. We've actually, whilst we've plateaued and we've maintained our position on volunteer-led walking schemes, we've actually increased them by 25, and we've got plans to roll that out. Something we've recently taken on board, there's over 60 care homes within the district, and we were working with around 6 care homes up until about November. We've actually doubled that. We're now working and doing physical activity sessions in at least 11 of those care homes now every single week, and we've done that within the last 3 or 4 months. We've got plans to increase that to 20 by the end of this year. Joe's already told me this evening that we've actually got 2 new care homes on board that starts in the next 2 weeks, and that's for the next 12 weeks. And we've been asked to take on additional sessions to replace their existing sessions that we didn't deliver, where we've increased from 1 session to 2 sessions a week, and we're looking to get into at least 40 of those care homes by the end of March next year. So we've got quite an aggressive programme, but one that we believe that we can deliver. Just in front of you, again, I won't go through this. I know that you've received this pack previously to this evening, but this just emphasises the importance of what we do and why we do it, but also the fantastic work that Jo and her team have completed throughout the course of the year. And these are testimonials made directly from, obviously, our residents that undertake and partake in our activities. And also, just coming on to the next slide, this is a slide that's quite powerful because this is, again, about the confidence that you've given, you've put in me and my team to go away and deliver some of the key themes and projects to actually turn One Leisure into a commercially sustainable business. And on the left-hand side, these are the key themes that we took from the presentation in 2023, sorry. And on the right-hand side is how we've actually delivered those projects and activities. So as an example, I was asked as part of my initial interim position to implement a financial and operational plan. We've done that within the 23-24 business strategy that we launched that was engaged with the staff. Just a couple of other examples. We brought in and we were supported by an independent consultant to implement a commercial sales management system. I think we're now safe to say that we're reaping the benefits of that, where we've got a clear structure in place for staff to follow. They've been retrained and that's now embedded within our teams. Active lifestyles, we needed to identify opportunities to how we could showcase and promote the fantastic work of Jo and her team. We actually developed and launched a physical activity for active lifestyles. That's been circulated and that's now been promoted to parish and town councils, and we've benefited from the publication of that. And also looking at reviewing opportunities for commercial sustainability. We've looked at the programming of our health and fitness, our swim school. You can see the benefits and the actual improvements that early on in the presentation of how we've actually materialised with that. And we've also launched a new online joining and booking platform to make the user experience better. And our online joining platform is now comparable to the Pure Gyms, the Anytime Fitnesses. It's a 4 or 5 step process where it was a very clunky process and we were losing business because of it, which we've now done. So we've done all that in the last 12 to 18 months in a very challenging environment. And I've tried to put this in some sort of format where we've had rises in inflation, as we're all aware. Utilities costs have gone up. I've just made a note here before I came on. Our actual utility costs in 21-22 were 392,000. Our budgeted costs for 24-25 are actually over 1.3 million. They've gone up by nearly £1 million in the space of 3 years. So it gives you some understanding of the environment that we're working within, with the rises in inflation, cost of living crisis, local competition, which we've got more of. We've obviously got changed customer behaviours since COVID. More people want to work outside. They've changed their behaviour of how they want to do things. We've obviously got a pivot to health and wellbeing now, which is prevalent within leisure. And we're understanding, as you know, from the independent review that was undertaken recently, how we can pivot towards health and wellbeing and work with and collaborate with our partners so that we can look at how we can get them working within our centres. We've also undertaken the work on the long-term operating model, and Cabinet approved that several weeks ago, and that came through this panel as well, which was great. And that's all towards the journey of making more people physically active, but also becoming commercially sustainable, which again will benefit the council in the long term. I won't go through all of the details, but these actions on the next couple of slides are all embedded within the service plan for active lifestyles and One Leisure centres. It just shows you that we're looking to implement the short-term operating model, which came through several weeks ago. We are just completing the staff review structures and presenting to staff over the coming days, and that will be implemented from May. We've implemented the price increase already. That's been done. The new operational and commercial dashboard for services. Now we've embedded and implemented the new online joining platform. That's going to make it easier for our staff to have live information that drops into their inbox so they can manage their business more closely and improve performance. And there's a number of other activities there that we'll undertake over the coming months. And in terms of active lifestyles, we've got the development of the care home setting, which I believe is one of our biggest opportunities. We're looking to attain Tier 2 status so that we can actually support the wider district work that they do on the healthy weight projects, such as Active for Health and CV prevention. We've also got the links and how we can cultivate better relationships with our partners in primary care networks and healthcare system, how we can increase our membership uptake and take concessionary memberships to another level. And also, we're just about to undertake an active lifestyles health review to understand how we can combine that into a new business plan for the next 12 months, similar to what we've done in leisure centres, so that we can make sure we're fit for purpose moving forward over the next 12 months to 2 years, in line with the short-term operating model review that we've undertaken. At that point, I'd just like to welcome questions.
Thank you so much, and really congratulations on the work you've done to have got where you've arrived at. Really well done, team. Questions, comments? Councillor Bywater.
Yeah, just to follow on to that, look, Greg and the team, fantastic. You know, I think you've done a hell of a good job in the last couple of years since COVID and the wobbly days of COVID. So I tip my hat to you guys. Well done. It's important that you get recognised for that good work. Just a couple of things I just wanted to pick up in, and you talked about it in your last slide about health. You know, we've had these conversations for many years about our health partners and how we keep them engaged on the process, because I think, you know, leisure and it's all linked, it's all interlinked, and we need to keep them on our side to push forward. Really, how are those conversations going? Are they going well? Is there an appetite from health to engage in this process and keep going?
Yeah, sorry. Just make sure I'm on. So yeah, the discussions are ongoing. They're very positive. I updated ONS last time that we were working with the local PCN, where we're looking at introducing extra space for dermatology services. That talk is ongoing. We're also talking to other partners around how we can access the vacant treatment rooms at St Ives Indoor. There was obviously some work we've done there, but it's understanding how we can utilise that space further. We're also looking at opportunities at St Ives Indoor Leisure Centre where there's additional space that we can reoccupy. So the talks are ongoing. They're very, very positive. But I think for me, it's one of the most complex systems I've ever tried to tap into. And it's really understanding the different streams within the health and wellbeing sector. And I've worked in leisure for over 20 years, and I've never really fully understood that complex system. So the discussions we're having at the moment are very positive. We just need that to materialise. But from a local level with Jo and her team, we just need to ensure that, and that's why we're doing the review, to ensure what we can control we do well, and we can increase the human resource to deliver more sessions to the wider public, to show that benefit to the health and wellbeing partners, so that we can bring and draw them into the leisure centres.
I'm just going to put a but in here, and it's not to be negative, and I don't want to be sounding like a broken record, because I know you've been really positive engaging with the situation with Salisbury swimming pool, but you know, our figures are saying that people want to go swimming, don't they? We've seen more people wanting to go swimming, and my only concern is, and I'm talking about the northwest of the district really, you know, this is all really good for our urban areas of St Neots, and my worry is about that we potentially leave a little bit of our district, you know, the pockets of the northwest Cambridgeshire, we'll leave them behind really, and that's my worry. I see the stuff that Active Lifestyles are doing in the community at Salisbury Parish Council and stuff like that, but from a swimming point of view, I don't want to isolate part of the district and not have an access to swimming. You know, there may be people from Salisbury who are coming down to Huntingdon now to go swimming, but that's my plea really, is that we don't forget the people in the northwest really. Thanks.
Just following on from the last ONS meeting, Councillor Orban obviously posed a question to me on your behalf. So we are planning to meet Salisbury next week, which will be a site visit to understand and have a look at the plant room and have a look at the swimming pool and understand from their point of view how much it may cost or what the operational constraints are around reopening the pool. At which point we then intend to obviously engage with you and Councillor Ross, so that we can obviously meet with them as we discussed and agreed, to understand from their point of view how or if they intend to reopen that pool. We also are going down with our colleagues from our facility management team as well next week to understand from their point of view to get realistic costs of how much it will cost to reopen that pool, of which we can then present to you, and then we could formulate a plan and move forward from there.
Has anyone else got any comments or questions? Councillor Orban.
I think Councillor Hunt had his hand up just before me.
No, you go.
Thanks a lot. I'd like to pass on my congratulations about what's being done with the third age, people in the care homes. I think we all know as a society we're living longer, and that puts a demand on our resources as district council and those as partner organisations we work with. So I think to be proactive and go out and engage with people in residential care. And there's this TV sitcom I remember, so wasn't it Waiting for God or God's Waiting Room or something like that? Set in a care home, and this idea that we're providing something for people to do and providing fitness levels and keeping people active, I think is great.
Just a question leading on from that, actually. So these, the figures, I mean, this is brilliant. You're getting into the care homes. This is such a difficult area to reach. Has any of that come from the Health Inequalities grant funds? Or is that a totally separate thing?
Hi, I'll try and answer that one. That's the ICS funded money.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, some of it has come from that pot. What we've been doing with the care homes, we had 5 originally that we were already working in, and then we basically went out and contacted the other 60 plus settings that there is across the district. There's various levels of sheltered housing and things like that, and we've offered them a 6-week trial. So a 6-week free trial, and that bit has been, we've used funding from the ICS grant to facilitate that, and then from that, if the care homes wish to, then they commission us from there. Now I think we've done 8 trials now. 1 was unsuccessful because the care home were not ready for people to come in, I think was but the others, they've all continued in some shape or form after the 6-week trial. So and one of them, as Greg was saying, just been told today, is now wanting 2 sessions, not 1 session. And yeah, we've got another new one starting next week, again the 6-week trial funded by the ICS. So that's enabled us to give them a bit of confidence and a bit of familiarity and know what they're going to get. And in that 6 weeks we trialled different activities as well. So we've got a new Golden Games activity that we've been doing, and there's different things. So they've then, when it's got to the end of the 6 weeks, they've wanted us to stay, but they've also been able to make an informed choice about what activity is suitable for their residents, because obviously, again, the residents are different abilities and things like that. So
Thank you.
yeah, so that money has proved very useful for
Yes.
that.
Oh, thank you for that. I did wonder. Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just want to echo the brilliant metrics that kind of you just showed us. Basically, I won't read them all out again, but everything up pretty much. It's a brilliant story, and I think that's a huge amount of work on your guys' part. So just want to congratulate on that. I'm really pleased as well the booking system has been sorted, because I know that's something that I had previous problems. And just to prove how easy it is, I have done it just while I'm sitting here. So yeah, you're not getting another 400 quid out of me though. No, I just wanted to congratulate you and the team on the officer side, Councillor Taylor, you on the councillor side, and just ask a slightly opportunistic question as well. The heat experience rooms have reopened now at St Neots and St Ives, like you highlighted, and it's gone brilliantly from what I've heard. Is there an opportunity to reopen that facility at Huntingdon?
So we're actually looking into that at the moment. And one of the key reasons we didn't reopen it was because of the high cost of reopening it. We've then gone away and obtained new information, new quotes, where we've tried to drill down the cost. So there are plans to reopen it. We're just working through the finer detail, and we'll communicate that out to customers imminently.
Yeah, perfect. All makes sense. And yeah, thank you very much.
Anybody got any other questions or comments? In that case, thank you so much. Really, congratulations on the work you've done. I'm really impressed.
So the new health wellbeing walk sleeper is out.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. You can take your baseball cap off now. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for your contributions and questions.